Hello and welcome once again to VR Vertigo. Gaming has always been a bit of a problem child. When it was first being born back in the 80s, nobody could take it seriously. And now, in 2026, nobody can take it seriously enough. And we're seeing rather the same thing happen with VR. We are literally going through the same process as we did with gaming when it was born, that we are now that VR is being born. But like all good things, it seems VR is worth fighting for. And that's why we get channels such as this one, not only trying to get people to get involved in VR, become invested in VR, but spread the message that VR is in fact the future of gaming, and that putting a headset on isn't actually an obstacle to gaming. It's actually a necessary step to gaming as you have never experienced it before. We all know that, and I have reported already on the fact that Meta has scaled back in terms of its VR endeavors. We're seeing headlines now that Meta has killed VR, and I don't think that's true. I think Meta has saved VR. Meta's objective never seemed to be make VR great, but rather total domination and control of the market. Corporately speaking, Meta's only concern seemed to be its length and its girth. It seems that Meta measures everything in terms of the instrument with which it can shaft other corporate entities. As far as many people are concerned, and certainly myself being one of them, very childlike. It would produce a series of adverts, and I think I've said this previously, where adults would be playing cartoony
games and loving every second.
But no, that's what I want to be playing in VR. Now, I'm not decrying cartoony games, there's a space for everything. And if I was a parent, and I'm not, and I had a VR headset, I would like for there to be a whole suite of games for children to play. But then the old dichotomy will not go away. Games for children on a system that costs what now? £300, £400, £500? Not to mention the cost involved with the PS5, the PS5 Pro and the PSVR 2, which is still, bang for buck, one of the best headsets available. Other headsets just go up in price for the most part. We've yet to hear what Steam's offering in terms of its price is going to end up being, but you can bet your bottom dollar it's not going to be cheap. And if it is, well, great. But then does that make the system sustainable? Games companies have for many years sold their kit at a loss, but I don't think Steam is going to play that game. And recently, VR has suffered another blow. Luke Ross, the VR mod developer, has thrown his toys out of the pram, it seems. He's had a couple of takedowns recently by companies for whom he's modded their games into VR. And maybe he sees a pattern forming and thinks, you know what, I'll quit while I'm ahead. But I don't think Luke Ross should just disappear into the night. I think he should come back in some way, shape or form, bigger, better and stronger, because the work he had done had been stellar. And I for one think that VR needs that kind of talent around. If his intention by taking his mods down was to create some kind of dissatisfaction in the community in order that maybe they would reach out or cause enough of a stink to make CD Projekt Red take note, if that was the objective, then they don't play those kind of games. But what I do think could happen is that CD Projekt Red and Luke Ross could in some way, shape or form team up. They could employ him on a subcontractor basis. He could set up his own company and liaise directly that way, thereby clearing any obstacles to getting paid for his work. But why would anybody pay Luke Ross when there are others doing exactly the same work for free, for donations? No, CD Projekt Red firmly had its head screwed to its shoulders when it made the rules up about modding for its games. You don't become that big and not recognise your responsibilities to both your community and your company. And finally, Ubisoft. Well, What can we say about Ubisoft that hasn't already been said? Well, I'll tell you what we can say. Ubisoft VR. I know I've banged on about this previously for a bit, but why isn't Ubisoft looking at this, setting up its own very small division, talking to studios like Flat to VR, speaking to talented individuals like Luke Ross? How can you be a company that creates worlds and not see the most obvious transition that there is for your product? The Ubisoft back catalogue is crying out for VR. It absolutely, positively must have VR. And I'm not going to get tired of saying this. I know I've got Star Citizen playing in the background. I could have chosen any number of Ubisoft games to include. But the reason I'm playing this is because for me this is effectively the pinnacle. In a world where companies are trying to manufacture engagement by the community for their games, VR is the obvious choice. VR is the obvious engagement getter, the engagement champion. When we play flat screen games, and there's evidence of this all the time, Destiny for instance, Destiny 2, let's talk about that. The environments in Destiny 2 are incredible. They are some of the most beautiful and well thought out environments I've ever seen. And yet when you see flat screen gamers playing in those environments, they're just belting through. Pell-mell, hell for leather, get the raid done. But once you put a VR headset on, that changes. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I had an experience of this myself. I put the headset on, went into the game, and I was like a child. Oh, look at that. All the hard work and effort that is put into those games during development all of a sudden becomes infinitely more important and will carry greater engagement. VR holds the answers to so many of modern gaming's questions that it can't be overstated. And as we move forward, we'll find that companies will start to click. The problem they have, in fact, the only problem they have is, will they click soon enough? Because the first couple of AAA companies that start developing hybrid games or VR games will end up being the vanguard for VR. They will end up being the yardstick by which all others are measured. And that isn't a bad thing, that's a good thing. Competition is healthy. And whereas Star Citizen is in fact the pinnacle of VR, in my humble opinion, there are so many other games that have been released over the last 10 years alone, which not only deserve VR, but it's a crime to gamers that they're not already in VR. There are worlds out there fit to inhabit, with gamers like myself eager to inhabit them. So, come on, Ubisoft. Come on, CD Projekt Red. Come on, all you great, talented game developers and studios. Give us somewhere to go. Because the world kind of sucks right now, and VR escapism has never seemed more appealing. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe and share. And until next time, bye bye.